Hello everyone, I'm Charlotte and I'm one of the learning officers and I work in Hyde Park, which is one of the 8 royal parks in the middle of London. Now today I'm going to be telling you a story about a wren called Jenny and how she uses trees to find her way home. So make sure you're sitting nice and comfortably and I'll begin. Hidden beneath the home oak in the hedge that she called home, there once was a wren named Jenny. Now Jenny's absolute favourite thing to do was to sit hidden from view and sing. She was very little, in fact one of the smallest birds around. Only the goldcrests over in the laurel tree was smaller than her. But though she was small, she had such a loud singing voice that she could outsing the blackbirds and pigeons, loudest over all of them. Now one day, Jenny Wren decided to try and outsing the wind. She flew up high into the air. She flew so high that the whole of Hyde Park stretched out beneath her. The trees turned to blobs and people looked like ants, and she could see 2 big green areas surrounded by a big grey city and broken in 2 by the Serpentine, which, from where she was, looked like a big wiggly dark blue splodge. And when she was as high as she dared to go, Jenny opened her beak and began to sing. But when the wind heard little Jenny Wren's song, it laughed and blew as hard and loud as it could. And not only was little Jenny Wren's voice swept away by the wind, but she tumbled from the air, down and down, further down, going faster and faster. She plummeted towards the ground, and the city disappeared, and all she could see was a big green blur, and the white-capped waves of the Serpentine came into view. And then there was a massive splash as Jenny Wren landed on the soft, downy feathers of a very grumpy goose. The goose spread its wings and ran across the water in alarm. And it was all Jenny Wren could do to cling on to the goose as it skidded to a stop in a great wave of water. And Jenny Wren tumbled onto the banks of the Serpentine. Now Jenny Wren was very sad, because though she'd lived in Hyde Park her entire life, she'd never gone so far from the hedge she called home beneath the home oak. And she looked around herself and didn't recognise any of the trees around her. So Jenny Wren began to cry. And when the wind saw that, it felt very guilty, because it hadn't meant to blow poor little Jenny Wren so off course. It had only tried to be louder than her. So it decided to lead her back to the hedge that she called home, beneath the home oak. Now, I'm sure many of you know that though the wind is very strong and powerful, its voice can only be heard through the trees. And some of the trees in Hyde Park have been standing for so very long that the wind knows them all very well. So the wind blew and rustled the leaves and branches of all the trees around and said, Jenny Wren, go over to the oak tree and I will lead you home. And Jenny sat up, for she'd heard a voice blowing through the trees. But she looked around her, and water filled her eyes, and she carried on crying. But I don't know what an oak tree looks like, blubbed Jenny Wren. Not to worry, Jenny Wren, said the wind. The bark is rough, and it has 3 buds on the end of its twigs that look like a crown. And if you look closely, you might find acorns on the ground. So Jenny Wren fluttered to her feet and looked at the trees in search of an oak with rough bark, 3 buds like a crown at the end of each twig, and acorns underneath. The first tree Jenny found looked like this. "This one has rough bark," said Jenny Wren, "but there's only one bud. It can't be you." So she went on to the next. "Ah," said Jenny Wren, "this one has rough bark and 3 buds that look like a crown." So she fluttered down to look at the ground. "And what do I see here?" she trilled. "It's an acorn! Wind, wind, I found the oak! Where do I go next?" And the wind blew through the oak tree. Jenny Wren, you need to go east. Find the silver birch, and I will lead you home." "But I don't know what a silver birch looks like," wailed Jenny Wren to the wind. "Not to worry, Jenny Wren," said the wind. "Its trunk is slender, its thin branches are like the bristles on a sweeping brush, and its silver white bark peels like paper." And then Jenny Wren flew east, across the reed beds and towards the silver birch, with a slender trunk, thin branches like a sweeping brush, and silver white bark that peels like paper. Can you work out what direction little Jenny Wren needs to fly to go east? Here's a compass rose to help you. And on little Jenny Wren flew, going east across the park. She passed all sorts of interesting sights and passed a little dell with water running down the stream. And she came across a tree. "Your bark is definitely not silver," said little Jenny Wren. "It can't be you." And she carried on flying. And then she came across a group of trees, thin trunks and twigs like the bristles of a sweeping brush, and silvery white peeling bark as thin as paper. This must be it. "Wind, wind," called Jenny Wren. "I found the silver birch trees. Where should I go next?" And then the wind blew through the branches of the silver birch and said, "Actually, I wonder, can you work out what direction the wind sends Jenny next?" So the wind wants to direct Jenny Wren to go in this direction. What direction is that? Does she need to go north, east, south, or west? Fantastic! She needs to go north. Well done to everyone who got it right. And then the wind blew through the branches of the silver birch and said, Jenny Wren, you need to go north. Find the lime tree and I will lead you home." And then Jenny Wren paused and looked a bit confused. "There's a tree in London with limes on it?" asked Jenny Wren. "No," laughed the wind, gentle as a breeze. "It's not that type of lime tree." "But then I don't know what that sort of lime tree looks like," sighed Jenny Wren. "Not to worry," said the wind. "Look for a small tree with twigs growing from its base and pink buds." So Jenny Wren flew north in search of the lime tree, looking for a small tree with twigs growing down from its base and pink buds. You're all doing really well. You've managed to find 2 trees so far with Jenny Wren. Can any of you remember what the first tree was? I think lots of you can. It had 3 letters. O-A-K. Oak. And was its bark rough or smooth? Can you remember? You're right. It was rough. And what else? Oh yes, an OAK oak tree has 1, 2, 3 buds on the end of each twig that look a bit like a crown. And underneath it, what might you find? Yes, you're right, an acorn. So that was the first tree. What was the second? Can anyone remember its name? It's got 2 parts to it. Well done if you did, and don't worry if you didn't. Now, the first part of its name is a precious metal that isn't gold. Fantastic, it's silver. And the second tree was a silver birch. Can you remember? Was its trunk thick or slim? You're right, it was slim. And I think we all remember its branches because they looked like sweeping brushes. And people used to use them to make their own sweeping brushes. And not only that, but apparently the best broomsticks are made from silver birch trees too. All right, let's go back to Jenny Wren. So Jenny Wren flew north in search of the lime tree, looking for a small tree with twigs growing down from its base and pink buds. The first tree little Jenny Wren found looked like this. What do you think? Is it a small tree with twigs growing from its base and a pink bud on the end of each twig? No, said Jenny Wren. This definitely isn't small. It's much too tall. This can't be the lime tree. You're right, said the wind. This is a London plane tree with its patchy bark and pom-pom seeds. It's definitely not a lime. Keep going. The next tree little Jenny Wren found looked like this. What do you think? It's small, with twigs growing from its base, and what colour are its buds? Pink! Wind! Wind! Chirped little Jenny Wren. I found the lime tree. Where do I go next? And the wind blew through the lime tree. Jenny Wren, Jenny Wren, you need to go west. Find the horse chestnut tree and I will lead you home. But I don't know what a horse chestnut tree looks like, shouted little Jenny Wren to the wind. Not to worry, Jenny Wren, said the wind. Its branches swoop down like arms. Its buds are big and feel sticky, and you might find conkers on the ground. So Jenny Wren flew west in search of the horse chestnut tree with swooping branches, big sticky buds and conkers underneath. Even from far away, Jenny Wren could spot the horse chestnut tree because it was the only tree with swooping branches, so she flew straight over to it. And look at its buds, she said. They're enormous and so sticky that if she touched them, little Jenny Wren would have got sap all over her feathers. But she didn't, because from her perch on the horse chestnut tree, she'd seen something that had stopped her in her tracks. The gold crests in the tree, the blackbirds and pigeons, and there, nestled beneath the home oak tree, was the hedge that she called home.